Hey humans, welcome to the Mozsta's Lair. This is Mozsta69 and in this episode we will be reviewing Far Cry 5. Oh yeah, bring it on. Far Cry 5, guys, is an action-adventure first-person shooter game developed by Ubisoft Montreal and Ubisoft Toronto, released in March 2018. It was released on all the major platforms except the Nintendo system. Far Cry 5 is based in the US of A, which is different. I don't think that's been done before in the Far Cry series. It did raise a little bit of controversy at the beginning, and it's based on a region that's modeled after Montana, and they created obviously a sandbox like they always do called Hope County, which is a fictional region which has been overrun by a Christian fundamentalist right-wing group led by the sort of charismatic Joseph Seed. Joseph Seed is viewed as a prophet by his people, and Joseph has enlisted his two brothers and another character by the name of Faith to pretty much run his organization underneath him. Each one of these three major captains, they own one part of the map in Far Cry 5. And you essentially have to deal with each one of these bosses before you get up to dealing with Joseph. Now, this group, which is nicknamed the Peggies, they essentially have their own Bible. They've put together their own Bible. They've got their own message. They believe that the world has sort of gone down the toilet. The governments are all evil, and Joseph Seed is essentially a prophet from God, and he will lead us down the right path. And you start off as a I think you're young, but you're a rookie in the police force, and you start the game by going into Hope County with the federal marshal and a few other officers to essentially arrest Joseph Seed. And it doesn't go smoothly, and you end up pretty much isolated in Hope County, fighting for your own survival, looking for allies and friends to join you in combating the Peggies, and ultimately toppling or trying to eliminate Joseph Seed. So that's the kind of overall narrative. It's Far Cry 5 stuff, very simple. You have different sort of regions and bosses in control of those regions which you need to go after. So in typical Mozsta69 style, let's start off with the positives and the strengths of this game. So first of all, guys, I would love to salute Ubisoft. Why? Because you know what, us gamers were quick to get triggered on microtransactions and stuff, which is justified. And I just felt that Ubisoft, in the last two games that I've played from them, which is Far Cry and Assassin's Creed Origins, they've really relegated the microtransactions, in the back of the game, and pretty much made them not even necessary. You can buy all the weapons and all the major vehicles quite reasonably quick in Far Cry 5. So Ubisoft, I absolutely salute you. You are definitely in my good books again, and thank you. The second massive positive is the actual Far Cry sandbox itself, guys. It's just a sandbox filled with fun. There is just chaos happening all around you. There's wildlife, there are cultists, there are cars and helicopters and planes and bears chasing down people who might get hit by a car, and planes crashing onto you, and gun battles occurring left, right and center, and all sorts of mayhem happening around you, which it just makes the sandbox feel alive. Sometimes I feel like I'm on a multiplayer MMO type game and there's people around me. That's how alive it feels to me, and I think the sandbox is definitely worth its weight in gold, and it's just pure fun. Some people complain that there's too much chaos and you can get sidetracked too much, but I just think that it's just all action, all fun. So I love the Far Cry sandbox, especially for a single player experience. Now you can't play this co-op, which is another massive positive. I love co-op mode. I think there should be more co-op. I think there should be co-op mode in every game that's ever made. Playing with a really good friend of yours is just so much fun. And this time round, you can play the main Far Cry 5 quest with your friend. You couldn't do that in Far Cry 4, so they adjusted that, and I had a great time. In fact, I pretty much finished this game 3 times. Once solo, once with Fortis 85, and once with Nick Fly Player, 2 of my friends. So that's another massive positive. Another tweak that they've done is the exploration system. That has been revamped. In the past, Far Cry, came up with this method of the towers that you had to go and climb up and press X at the top of the tower, and then the fog of war around that tower would clear and you would see all the points of interest around you. That system was good for its time, but now it's time to move on, and move on they did. Ironically, Horizon Zero Dawn, a game that sort of recently has come out, that uses the tower system that Far Cry developed, and Far Cry 5 has actually moved one step ahead. Now, the way that you actually find out about the area around you is a quite realistic way, right? It's quite an immersive way. So one way is actually reading magazines that you find in shops and stuff. Another way is speaking to NPCs, and another way is actually looking at road signs and stuff to see if there's animals around you. So these 3 mechanisms are what enable you to uncover points of interest on the map, and I just think it's a lot more organic, and it's definitely a lot more immersive than having to climb up a tower and press X. So the exploration system has evolved for the better. Again, back to the sandbox, you've got awesome vehicles, you've got the quad bikes, you've got helicopters, you've got planes, you've got boats, you've got jet skis, you've got trucks with machine guns on them. You name it, it's there, and it all works. The vehicles look and they feel different. There are different vehicles, for different occasions that you would use. So again, a lot of fun, especially with a friend. Nothing beats the feeling of driving a pickup truck with a machine gun on it while your friends are manning the machine gun at the back. Again, awesome fun. The gunplay is solid. It's not it's nothing spectacular. Sometimes the bullets you don't really get the feeling of your bullets hitting the target sometimes, and I found that on the PlayStation 4 version to be the case more so than the PC version. You've got all the standard guns. You can customize them a little bit. There's not too much depth in that aspect, but there's also a lot of weapons that you can throw, like mines and pipe bombs and Molotov cocktails, dynamite. So that kind of augments the gun system as well. And all in all, guys, it's just all you need, really. You don't really need any more depth, in my opinion, for a Far Cry game in regards to weapons and so on. The shooting is more realistic than Far Cry 4. There's a noticeable bullet drop, guys. So if you go up in a helicopter and you shoot your machine gun, you can see a massive arc as the bullets drop, which adds a degree of realism to your aiming. The graphics are very solid, considering the fact that a lot of times you're moving rapidly through this game. I found that the performance was good, the frame rate was excellent, and the detail was maintained in these moments of high motion. And the region is absolutely stunning. There's beautiful vistas, beautiful lakes, rivers, and valleys to look on. They did a really good job in replicating Montana. Not that I've been there, but I used to live in Seattle, so I can kind of imagine that region. The ending was extremely memorable. I loved the ending. In fact, it's for me, it's easily the best Far Cry ending. And I don't want to give any spoilers, so yeah, I actually was impressed with the ending. It was a bit of a twist, and not a twist, but it was a bit of a shock to me. I think it was a really solid ending. despite the actual story, and we'll get into that because let me tell you right now, the story is in my bad section of the review. So let's get on to the bad. So guys, really, you know, how do I say this? There's been a few criticisms from reviewers that annoyed the hell out of me, and that was that because Far Cry 5 happens to be about, let's say, white Christian fundamentalists, then in this climate, and I don't know what climate they're talking about, they expected more. How can I say? What did the review say? They were saying they expected, you know, more relative type tones to be played out. Now, there were two kind of political statements that were kind of having a dig at the current establishment, if you like. One was about when Joseph Seed says, we're building walls everywhere, and another guy, I think John Seed or someone said, look who's in charge, and laugh. I don't know if they're digs at Donald Trump or not, but there was two mild kind of digs, but the rest of it was just within the game. This game, as the developer said, has been in development way before like all this, today's era kicked in, if you like. So what annoys me though is that these reviewers, they might be based in America and they're looking at Ubisoft Montreal and Ubisoft Toronto to make a political statement. And I just think that is absolutely hypocritical. If you're why would you depend on a game developer from another country to make heavy political statements about what's going on in your country? I think that's just hypocritical. I think you should look yourself in the mirror and say, have I been politically active myself? Have I stood up for this, that, and the other? Have I, gone to protest this, that, and the other? And if you haven't, then the last thing you can do is demand a foreign game developer of all people to make heavy political statements about your country, right? So Far Cry has never been about that, and I'm glad they didn't extend any further than what they already included in the game. Games and politics should be separate unless the developer is actually in that country and experiencing something that he feels he needs to express in the form of game media. I have no problems with that. So that's not a bad point. I was just sort of waffling about some developers that annoyed. Now, the bad point though is that at the end of the day, this is still about a cult, and I personally am fascinated with cults. I watch documentaries. I just get fascinated with on one hand, this cult leader guy that has the absolute balls to walk around and say, I am God, follow me. I just get so intrigued with that level of confidence, and I also get intrigued with the type of people that believe that story and follow that person and give everything to that person. Both sides of the story really intrigue me, so I have a natural interest in cults, and I was hoping that Far Cry 5 would at least make Joseph and John and Jacob Seed, the three leaders, if you like, really charismatic, really kind of convince me, give me a story, to almost convince me to join their cult without any politics, right? Just, because cult leaders don't talk about Democrats and Republicans and economy and stuff. They talk about, they give you stories and how you can make yourself better, and if you follow them, you will be in nirvana and this, that, and the other. So I just wish that they made the three leaders a lot more charismatic than they did, and they kind of had an opportunity to do so, and they didn't. John Seed is just like a torturer, and Jacob just wants to do like some old school, like hardcore brainwashing. The whole faith storyline was weird to me. I didn't like that with the drugs and the weird effects it had on you. It was all a bit weird. The whole faith thing was a bit weird. Another negative is the boss fight with Faith was all a bit weird. I didn't like that at all. It wasn't very Far Cry-ish to have this weird boss fight happening. And the storyline was so weak that at some points you know, like John Seed has to kidnap you, and Jacob Seed, they consistently keep kidnapping you, right? And you could be like flying in a helicopter, and then next thing you know, you've been kidnapped by these guys. So it was just the biggest immersive, breaking story, and I feel it was rushed. I feel a much better job could be done. Look, you can have, you know, awesome fun and, you know, amazing chaos and tell a solid story. And the game that I played that achieved that thing, that the same thing, was Wolfenstein 3D, guys. That was just, you know, swashbuckling fun, but yet it still gave me a storyline that I was totally hooked in and wanted to see to the end. Far Cry 5 again kind of fails to do that. I want them to evolve. I want them to you know, to switch between the, you know, awesome chaotic fun you have in the sandbox and having these awesome story threads that you really want to pursue. So they really failed to do that. Other than that, guys, yeah, that's probably covers all the weaknesses I have with the game. Again, it's the stories, the characters, or lack of characters, lack of depth, and the absolute immersive breaking, you know, stealing you from what you're doing and just saying you're captured now. Bad luck, dude. You know, you could have been on a boat by yourself, but you've just been captured. So that was really disappointing from my point. But the ending kind of made up for some of that. I have to say the ending was awesome. So that's the bad side, guys. All in all, if the story was a little bit better, I would definitely give this game 4.5 out of 5 human skulls. But unfortunately, I'll have to give it 4.5. Oh, sorry, 4 out of 5 human skulls. This is Mozsta 69. Hope you enjoyed the review. See you next time, guys.